Hey there. Ready for a deep dive into some wild ideas about the afterlife?
I'm ready.
Well, today we're cracking open this fascinating book, The American Book of the Dead.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's like this guide, right? It's been around for 30 years, helping people navigate what it calls, get this, the labyrinth between death and rebirth.
The labyrinth.
Uh-huh, the labyrinth. I know, sounds intriguing, right? It's like a map through uncharted territory. And to help us decode all this, we've got, well, an expert on these kinds of complex spiritual texts.
Well, I'm happy to be here. I mean, this book is really unique because it lends like these complex spiritual concepts with humor and modern language, which you don't often see, you know?
Exactly. Even the earlier editions had these quirky titles like The Lazy Man's Guide to Death and Dying. So what's the deal with this labyrinth idea? Is this like a literal place, or are we talking metaphorically?
Oh, it's definitely a metaphor. Think of it as a symbolic journey, like your consciousness takes after death, before any kind of rebirth. It's described as this intricate path through different dimensions or states of being, and the book acts as a sort of map.
Okay, so if the labyrinth is this metaphorical journey, then what are these rebirth stations the book talks about? I mean, they've got everything from a grand hotel to an interstellar copper disc radio.
Wow.
What are these places supposed to represent?
Well, these stations, it's like they're waypoints within the labyrinth, each representing a different state of consciousness or level of existence you might encounter. And the imagery is deliberately vivid, sometimes even a bit unsettling,
Right.
to shake you out of your ordinary way of thinking,
Yeah.
to make you really pay attention.
Yeah.
It's like the author's saying, like, wake up, this is important.
It definitely gets your attention. And speaking of things that make you sit up and take notice, there's this constant emphasis on something called the clear light.
Yes.
The book says recognizing this clear light is crucial during the death experience. What exactly is it?
Well, the clear light is described as this incredibly pure, radiant void that your consciousness encounters upon death. Imagine it like pure awareness, you know,
Yeah.
without any thoughts or distractions. The book says this encounter with the clear light is a chance for liberation,
Wow.
a way to break free from the cycle of death and rebirth,
Uh-huh.
but only if you can recognize it for what it is.
It's almost like a test, a crucial moment where you have to make a choice. And that brings me to something I found fascinatingly strange. The book's instructions for readers.
Oh.
People meant to guide the dying person, or the voyager as they call them, through this process. It says these readers are supposed to use the book during the final moments of life and even for days afterward. Have you ever encountered anything like that?
Well, it highlights just how much emphasis this tradition places on guidance and preparation, right?
Yeah.
The book even details different types of guides you might encounter in the labyrinth. Friendly ones, you know, who help you along the way, and then unresponsive guides that could represent challenges or obstacles. It gives advice on how to recognize them. For instance, there are mentions of the 5 victorious conquerors of reality or the guide of the order of karma and how to interact with them.
So even if someone has lived a spiritual life, they could still stumble in the labyrinth without proper guidance.
That seems to be a key takeaway. The book really emphasizes active participation in the death and rebirth process, not just passive acceptance.
And the idea that blows my mind is that this book actually offers instructions for choosing your next life. It lays out womb entry instructions and even talks about a monkey man that torments the voyager. What's that all about?
Well, it's all about encouraging you to take control of your destiny, even after death. The book suggests you can use visualization and intention to shape your next life, and the womb entry instructions are part of that.
That's a lot to take in. We're going to need a moment to unpack all of this. But before we do, I have to ask about something that really piqued my curiosity. The labyrinth games. The book has this crazy list of games with names like the Cheshire Cat game, the Slinky game, the Bouncing Around Walls game, and even a Being Food game. What's the connection between these games and preparing for death?
Well, these games are most likely exercises
Yeah.
to help you detach from the physical world and explore different states of consciousness. They could be ways to confront your fears, explore different aspects of yourself, or even just get used to navigating the unpredictable nature of the labyrinth.
So they're like training exercises for the soul.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay. We've got this guide to the afterlife that reads like a psychedelic choose-your-own-adventure with instructions on how to pick your next life and strange games to play along the way. But what makes this specifically American?
Right.
Other cultures have their own books of the dead, right? What sets this one apart?
Well, one thing that stands out is the strong focus on individual empowerment and the ability to shape your own destiny, which aligns with classic American values, I think.
Yeah.
It's not just about accepting what comes, it's about actively shaping your experience.
Right. It's about taking control.
Yeah.
And there's that playful, almost irreverent tone we talked about earlier. The book even compares the process of death and rebirth to falling off a bicycle. Once you learn, you never forget.
Exactly.
It's definitely a unique approach. And there's one more thing that struck me as particularly interesting. The book mentions that Tulkas and avatars and holy ones will be appearing in the West in the coming centuries.
Really?
Yeah.
That is fascinating.
I wonder what they mean by that and how that fits into this whole picture of death and rebirth. We'll have to explore that further. But for now, let's shift gears and take a closer look at the role of the reader. What can you tell us about their responsibilities and how they're supposed to guide someone through the labyrinth?
Well, the reader's role is absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
They're not just there to read the book aloud.
Right.
They're acting as like a spiritual anchor for the voyager, helping them navigate those initial stages of the labyrinth.
It sounds like a huge responsibility.
It is.
The book actually provides specific instructions on how to do this right. Like the reader's posture,
Yes.
their tone of voice, even how to maintain their own focus while reading.
Exactly. It even emphasizes that the reader's own state of mind can directly impact the voyager's ability to navigate the clear light.
Whoa.
Their energies are interconnected in a profound way.
So it's not just about reading the words, it's about creating the right energetic environment.
Right.
And it doesn't stop there, does it? The book suggests the reader should continue reading from the book for days after death. It even maps out specific passages for each day of the journey.
That's right. The book calls this period the vigil, and it's a critical time in the labyrinth.
Yeah.
It's when the voyager first encounters like the full force of the clear light, and it can be an incredibly intense experience.
That makes sense. I imagine it's a lot to process, letting go of your physical body and everything you've known in this life.
Yeah.
The book mentions all sorts of intense sensations and visions that might arise during this time.
Right.
Almost like withdrawal symptoms from the physical world.
And you have to remember, the voyager is in a highly vulnerable state, easily swayed by their own thoughts and emotions. That's why the reader's presence is so important. They act as like an anchor, helping the voyager stay focused and navigate those initial challenges.
It's like they're a lifeline in this unfamiliar territory. The book even gives instructions on how to handle potential problems, like if the voyager gets stuck in a negative thought loop or starts clinging to memories from their past life.
It really is a comprehensive manual for navigating this liminal space between death and rebirth.
Yeah.
It covers so many possibilities, anticipating challenges and offering solutions.
But what happens if the voyager doesn't achieve liberation in that initial clear light phase? The book talks about a second stage where all sorts of wild visions start to appear. What's going on there?
This is where things get really interesting. The book calls these visions apparitions.
Yeah.
And they're thought to be manifestations of the voyager's own consciousness.
Okay.
It's like all those subconscious thoughts, desires, and fears suddenly take on a visible form.
And some of those visions sound pretty terrifying. There's talk about unresponsive guides that appear as menacing figures, and even a Lord of Death who embodies all the Voyager's deepest fears.
It's important to remember, though, that the book emphasizes that these frightening figures are ultimately projections of the Voyager's own mind.
Right.
They're not external threats, but rather aspects of themselves that need to be confronted and integrated.
That's where the idea of the labyrinth games comes in, right?
Exactly.
They're not just for fun, but actually tools to help the Voyager detach from those visions and explore different states of consciousness.
They're a way to gain mastery over those subconscious impulses and break free from the cycles of fear and desire.
The book also mentions specific practices like visualizing a loved one or repeating certain mantras as ways to navigate those challenging encounters.
It's not just about passively observing those visions.
Right.
It's about actively engaging with them, using specific techniques to transform them and move through the labyrinth.
So let's say the Voyager has made it through the clear light and those intense apparitions.
Okay.
What happens next?
That's where we enter the third stage of the journey, the reformation of consciousness. This is where the book provides those mind-boggling instructions on how to choose a new life.
It's incredible, isn't it? It describes this process of womb entry where the Voyager is drawn towards different realms of existence. It's like they're shopping for a new reality.
And the book emphasizes that this is not a passive process.
Right.
The Voyager can actually use their intention and visualization to influence which womb they're drawn to.
So there's still a sense of agency, even in this transition between lives.
Absolutely. The book provides a list of potential rebirth stations where the Voyager might find themselves, each representing a different type of existence.
Right?
Some sound idyllic, like the jeweled temples and gardens of delight,
Oh, wow.
while others are more mundane, like a simple farmhouse.
It's fascinating how they blend the familiar with the utterly bizarre. I mean, they have everything from a bustling Grand Central Station to an interstellar copper disc radio. What do you make of those more unusual descriptions?
I think they're meant to challenge our limited understanding of what reality can be.
Yeah.
It's like the book is opening up a realm of possibilities that extend far beyond our everyday experience.
But there's a catch, right? The book warns about something called the Monkey Man. What's that all about?
Oh, this monkey man is described as like a trickster figure
Okay.
who tries to lure the Voyager into making unwise choices, tempting them with desires and fears that can lead them astray.
So it's like a test of discernment, even in the midst of all these possibilities.
Exactly. The Voyager has to be careful not to fall for the monkey man's tricks and to stay focused on what truly matters.
And it seems like he's particularly active during this womb entry stage, right? The book warns about feeling pursued or threatened, like being chased by hunters or even a giant chicken.
Those are fascinating metaphors, aren't they?
Yeah.
They point to the anxieties and uncertainties that can arise during this crucial decision-making phase. Choosing the wrong womb could mean being reborn into a less desirable realm of existence.
The stakes are high. Does the book offer any guidance on how to avoid making those kinds of mistakes?
It actually provides a list of methods for closing the womb door if the Voyager finds themselves being drawn towards an undesirable rebirth. It's like a cosmic escape hatch.
So it's not just about choosing the right womb, but also about recognizing and avoiding the wrong ones.
That's right. It's about exercising discernment and making conscious choices, even in the midst of this overwhelming and often confusing experience.
You mentioned earlier that the book emphasizes preparation.
Yes.
Does it offer any advice on how to prepare for this womb entry process while you're still alive?
It definitely does. It stresses the importance of cultivating mindfulness,
Yeah.
letting go of attachments, and developing a strong sense of self-awareness. It's like they're saying that the way you live your life directly impacts your experience of death and rebirth.
It's all connected. But I have to admit, I'm still stuck on those labyrinth games. The book provides this whole list of them. And some of the titles are just wild. We have to unpack those a little more.
Yeah, they are. They're really fascinating, aren't they? They offer a glimpse into the playful, sometimes absurd nature of this labyrinth experience. But they also serve like a deeper purpose as tools for exploring different states of consciousness and challenging our assumptions about reality.
Like the Cheshire Cat game, where you slowly disappear until all that's left is a smile.
Yeah.
What could that possibly be about?
It could be a way of practicing detachment from the physical form.
Okay.
Imagine what it would feel like to let go of all the things that you identify with in this world.
Yeah.
Your body, your possessions, your roles, and just exist as pure awareness.
That's a pretty mind-bending concept. And what about the bouncing around walls game?
Yeah.
It sounds a bit chaotic.
Maybe it represents navigating the unpredictable nature of the labyrinth, constantly shifting and adapting to new challenges.
Okay.
Think about how often life throws you curveballs.
Yeah.
These games could be a way to practice staying flexible and open to whatever comes your way.
It's like building resilience for the soul.
Exactly.
And then there's the being food game, which, to be honest, sounds a little unsettling.
That one could be about confronting our fears of annihilation.
Okay.
Or maybe it's about exploring the interconnectedness of all life, where one being's death becomes another's sustenance. It's a reminder that even in death, we're part of a larger cycle.
It's definitely a perspective shift. Some of these games even sound like they could be played with other Voyagers in the labyrinth.
Yeah.
It's not just a solitary journey, is it?
That's right. It's just a social aspect to this journey.
Yeah.
A shared experience of exploration and transformation. It's not just about you as an individual. It's about community and connection.
And it seems like these games can get pretty intense. The book mentions Holocaust games and revenge games, which sound downright terrifying.
Those could represent confronting our shadow selves, those aspects of our being that we tend to repress or deny.
Yeah.
They could also be about working through past traumas and injustices, whether from this life or previous ones. It's like the labyrinth provides a space to face those difficult emotions and experiences head on.
Wow, that's heavy stuff. The book even mentions a perpetual entertainment machine game where you trap someone in a TV screen and make them tap dance forever. What's the message there?
That one's definitely a bit disturbing, but it could be a commentary on the addictive nature of entertainment.
Right.
Or maybe it's about the dangers of becoming trapped in repetitive cycles of behavior, stuck in patterns that no longer serve us.
It's a reminder to be mindful of how we spend our time and energy, even in the afterlife.
Exactly.
It seems like these games are a microcosm of the entire labyrinth experience, with all its challenges, transformations, and absurdities.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah?
They're a way to practice navigating those complexities in a safe and playful environment, preparing the voyager for the real challenges ahead.
But there's a serious side to it too, right? The book mentions that these games can actually have karmic consequences depending on the choices you make.
Exactly. It's not all fun and games in the labyrinth.
Yeah.
There's a real sense of responsibility and accountability.
Yeah.
Every choice has an impact, both on the individual and on the collective.
Yeah.
That's a theme that runs throughout the book.
It all ties back to that idea of conscious living, doesn't it?
Exactly.
If we want to navigate those transitions with greater awareness and freedom, we need to start paying attention to our choices and actions in this life, right now.
That's the ultimate message of this book, I think. It's a call to awaken to the interconnectedness of all things, to the reality that death is not an ending, but a transition.
Right.
And to the power we have to shape our own destiny, both in this life and beyond.
So, the American Book of the Dead is more than just a guide to the afterlife.
Yeah.
It's a guide to living a more conscious and meaningful life right now.
Exactly. It's about waking up to the fullness of our being, recognizing the choices we make every day, and embracing the journey with courage and curiosity.
Well, we've certainly covered a lot of ground today. From the Clear Light to the Monkey Man, womb entry, and those intriguing labyrinth games. This book has given us so much to think about.
It's a real mind expander.
It is.
It challenges our assumptions about life, death, and everything in between.
If our listeners are left with just one question to ponder after this deep dive, what would you want it to be?
I'd ask them to consider this. What if the labyrinth isn't just something we experience after death, but something we're navigating all the time without realizing it? How might that change the way you approach your life, your relationships, your choices?
That's a powerful question to leave everyone with. The American Book of the Dead is a wild ride, full of strange and wonderful ideas, but ultimately it's an invitation to explore the mysteries of existence and discover our own unique path through the labyrinth, whatever form that may take. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring.